So, yes, I do know a lot. Yes, the armor of the Downton Abbey is completely, historically inaccurate, stupid, and has nothing to do with reality. I mean, even for God's sake, they bothered about their servants. They would not even have known their blasted names. They would have basically raped them and beaten them. So, and the clauses are inaccurate on so many levels in Downton Abbey. On a historical level, I mean, many things did not even exist back then, or if they existed, they were not. By 90%, 99% of coats, for example, would not have been cut like that precise coat I would have seen. Even if 1% was cut like that. And then everything is clean. Life was not that clean back then, even for the elite of Lord Grantham and whatever. And the accents, I mean, Sarah, the maid, she talks with an estuary accent. The estuary accent only began to develop itself in the late 70s and was not really a thing until the mid-1980s. The things, Downton Abbey is set in between 1912 and 1926, so the estuary accent simply did not exist. They had the Cockney accents, different Cockneys, but and so many movies are so inaccurate upon so many levels. And the further to our set, and the further is the time frame, I mean, the more inaccurate to become. But for Gangs of New York, once I first watched it, I was not expecting the reality of the thing. So I watched it on our superb flat screen, which we have in France. My brother downloaded it for me, and I watched it later, and the movie is 3 hours long, and I was shocked by the beauty, the filmographic beauty of the film. But it could be artistically beautiful and yet be inaccurate, but by how accurate it also was. And so I really want to, there have been a lot of reviews upon YouTube and all about how historically accurate it is or it is not, and well it is and well it is not, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. But nothing real about the clothing. And I also found, there's a question upon Quora, the website Quora, asking how accurate are the costumes in Gangs of New York, and most people said they were inaccurate or too theatrical. Well, I have to really disagree with that, and in fact they are inaccurate to some degrees, but it is because they lack theatricality. They should have been more theatrical. And so really this video today, I'm going to review the costumes, especially the men's costumes, which I know much more about than the women's of Gangs of New York. So now, what one has to bear in mind is that in movies, unfortunately, and this has always been the case, they do costumes, they do not really try to do what people were back then. I try to dress like people actually did in a certain context, I try to dress like the 1890s upper class British people. But usually in movies it is not that accurate to try to, even when they're trying to be accurate, like in Gangs of New York, they still, I mean, why do they not get originals, or why do they not get things that have already been done for other movies? Why do they not go to the Quartermaster shop or any other of the hundreds of websites, shops that will make custom made, or even if they have the money, bespoke made, made to measure, or even for all these extras, have these ready-made garments and rent them and all. Why did they not do that? Because they want, in movie and filmography, I did not know that until very recently, they actually tell the story through the costumes. So if one observes in Gangs of New York, Bill the Butcher, the bad guy, he starts off in a brown suit because at the beginning, one does not really know if he is mean or nice. And then there's a scene when he's, this contains spoilers, I'm just warning. There's a scene where he's about to be killed, but actually he's not killed, but we are meant to believe that perhaps he will die. And so just before that scene is set, and during that scene also, he's wearing a white frock coat. And actually that, I guess, would decode white, because, especially back in the days, in Western Europe, where I come from, in all Western world, as it says in the United States of America, white could signify purity as well as death. So that is the reason for which they always make up costumes, because the directors and the production is almost more interested by the message they so want to give to the audience rather than representing reality, i.e. what will a character like Bill the Butcher, knowing his psychology and the weather, so the time of year, the actual year, so this is 1863, and the social classes from how much money he has and well it is set exactly. So this is in the 5 points, which was considered back then the worst slum in Western Europe, even worse than the worst parts of London's East End, which was by far London's East End back then, unlike today, which is alright. Back then it was the worst slum in the Western world. And I said 5 points was the worst slum in Western Europe. Obviously, New York is not in Western Europe. I made a mistake. I meant in the Western world. And so they're not really interested by it, but they did make a lot of efforts compared to other films. So I'm going to review, and I'm going to just have it on my computer there. One can see it, just to make sure what it is I'm talking about. So there's a big mistake. The beginning is set all the way back in 1846, the same setting, 5 points, but 1846, so 16 years prior to when the rest of the film is set. So the beginning is only about 10 minutes long. It is a fight between two different gangs, the natives and the gangs that support the natives, and the dead rabbits and the gangs that support the dead rabbits. And practically, it feels like it has all these beautiful suits made for the year 1863. The costumes, the costumers, she researched that year in that context, and she probably obviously employed people like myself who know everything about a certain era to help her and all. And then suddenly they remembered, oh damn, the first 10 minutes are set 16 minutes prior, and they did not have any costumes they had made that